Right. So last class we were discussing on workflows. Am I audible, guys?
Your voice is breaking, sir.
Right. So I think last class we started the workflow. We created approval user and approval group activities for managers approval and as well as the group's approval. So we'll continue. So we'll have to add more activities this way.
Hello?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Everybody, am I audible?
Yes, Dilip.
Right. So let's open our workflow. So go to checkout state, and this is our workflow. So whenever we are editing the workflow or we are creating the workflow, you can see the status is in checkout state, checked out by me. Okay, remember this. We'll come back this at the end of the completion of the workflow. Okay, so you can edit your workflow or you can modify your workflow only when the status is in checkout state. Okay, so now currently the workflow is in checkout state. Now, so next. So next is whenever the L2 approval is approved, what are we supposed to do? You're supposed to mark the RATM as approved, right? So whenever L2 approval is approved, we'll have to mark the RATM as approved. So you can use the activity like approval action. So you can use this activity in order to mark the RATM as approved. Right? Say mark RATM as approved. Scroll down and you can see here action. So you can select, so mark task as approved, mark task as rejected, right? So based upon your condition, you can use these options. So now currently I want to mark the RATM as approved. So you can use this option, first one. Click on submit. Right. So now join the output of L2 approval as an input to the approval action. Getting it? Now, whenever L1 or L2 approval is rejected, what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to mark the RATM as rejected, right? So for approval, you're making it as approved, but for rejection, you have to make RATM as rejected. So again, use approval action. Right, mark the RATM as rejected. Okay, so now action, say mark task as rejected. Right. So now, so this is a rejection approval action. So join the output of rejection, L1 rejection to RATM. So this approval action, mark the L2 approval rejection to this approval action, right? So once the RATM is rejected, then make the RATM as closed, request as closed. So what you can do, you have to mark the RATM as close completed. So you can use this set values. Click on this. Can you set values to set the values on the so now, so whenever you're close rejecting the RATM, rejecting the approval, mark the RATM as closed or close the RATM. Close the RATM, and you can here set the values on the fields. So on the RATM, let me just show you. Just opening any of the RATM. So whenever approval is rejected on the RATM, we are making sure that approval is set to rejected, and we are trying to move the state to close complete. So you're setting the value on the state, right, with the close complete. So that's what we're trying to do here. Using set values, you can set the field values on the RATM. So you can use this particular set values. So select the value field here, state. So we are setting the state to, you can say close incomplete, okay, because rejection happened, right? So you can mark the status as close incomplete. Getting it? Close incomplete, and then you can close the request as well. So whenever you're closing the request, whenever you're closing the RATM, you can close the request as well, right? So mark the request state and state of the request to close incomplete. So open this request. So close incomplete and then close incomplete. You can mark this way, but you have to make this configuration change to be automatically updated through the workflow. So you have to configure another activity for closing the request. Say, so you cannot use set values here. You can use set values here directly to close the request. Rather, use run script. Use run script. Right. So mark the request as close incomplete. Getting it? So we have to write the script here. So we'll write that in some time. So submit it. Okay, we'll do it at the end. So now So join the output of approval action to the closure of RITM. Now after this, execute this run script, and then you can say join the output of this run script to the end of the workflow. So run script is basically the activity wherein which you can write some script to execute some logic. Write some script to execute the logic. Getting it? So now this is about the rejection path. Now let's go to the approval path. So RITM is approved. What is the next thing? So we are supposed to create a catalog task, right? So you can use the activity. So which activity? So you have create task here. Create task here. You can use catalog task as well. So catalog task is going to create task on SE underscore task table. Catalog task, it is going to create task on the table SE underscore task. Getting it? Next, create task activity is going to create task on any table. Okay. So catalog task specifically it is going to create task on so catalog task specifically it is going to create task on SE underscore task table, whereas create task it's going to create task on any table. So now on the service catalog generally, so we'll be creating task on SE task table. So I've seen right request RITM catalog task. So the catalog task is nothing but the records on SE underscore task table. So we'll have to use this activity. So use this catalog task. So say task one creation. Task one creation. So now here on this catalog task, see here, there are few fields that you need to understand here. So this catalog task is going to create task on S underscore task table. You can set the priority on this particular task which you are going to create. What priority the task should be created. So these are all the priorities: critical, high, moderate, low, planning. So with which priority you want to have the task creation. So you can select moderate or low task. Wait for completion. So this is very important when it comes to catalog task. Uh, uh, most popular question in the interviews. Wait for completion. So we'll talk about this. What is this wait for completion? And task from the fields. So now whenever you're selecting this task value from the fields, so you're seeing these are all the fields appearing, and you can hard code the values here. So fulfillment group is nothing but the assignment group. So if you open any of the RITM and SC task, approve it for time being. approve it for time being. We'll talk about this approvals as well. How do the users approve? They don't do approval this way. They'll follow a separate process. So I'll discuss about that as well. I don't think like it'll trigger approvals. Let me open other RATMs. Open any of the other RTMs. Yeah, catalog task. See here, open this task. So this is a catalog task. So we are going to generate this particular catalog task on through the workflow. So there is an assignment group here, set here, and there is a short description, priority, state. So observe carefully here on the workflow editor. So this priority is nothing but priority that we want to set it on this field, right? And next. So fulfillment group is nothing but assignment group. Okay, to which group we want to assign the task, so that we want to automate through this fulfillment group setting here. So you can, if whatever the group that you set here, and that group will be added onto the assignment group on the catalog task, right? Assigned to, leave it blank for now, because after the task is assigned, the task will be assigned to one of the group member of the group selected here. Okay, leave it as it is. Short description, it is a mandatory here. So give some meaningful short description for this task. Say for now I'm saying task 1 for the group. Anybody has a use case? What is a group name that we gave for the task 1? Is it A1 engineering team? Anybody has a use case description? So now what I'm doing is task 1, I'm assigning it to A1 engineering team. Okay. So now I'm giving this short description, and here in the fulfillment group, we can give the group A1 engineering. Right? A1 engineering team, and then, and if you want to add any variables, item variables onto this catalog task, you can add it here. So as I said, variable editor on the RATM, right? So you should be able to add variables onto the SE task or catalog task from the workflow. So this is how you add it. So for example, you want to add variables like the reported user, manager, reported user, email, right? So these are all the variables from our item, right? So you can add the variables this way, and these variables will appear on the catalog task. Now, for example, you do not want to hard code the group here this way, and you wanted to dynamically set the assignment group, fulfillment group here. So you have to write the script. Okay. So if you're using this way, you have to set it manually. But if you want to dynamically set the assignment group based upon some conditions, you have to write the script. So you have an option here called advanced. Getting it? Advanced. So here you have to write the script in order to set the values onto the catalog task dynamically. Okay. So I'll discuss one of the use case, how to set the values dynamically onto the catalog task based on the conditions. So click on submit now. Delete delete, right? So join this here. So this is a task one creation. So I'm joining approval action output as an input to the catalog task, right? So task one creation is completed. Next, whenever task one is completed, then only task two should create. Whenever task one is completed, then only the task two should create. Okay, it should not create a task two parallelly. It should create only after completion of task one. So workflow should wait till task one is completed, then only create the task two. So how that is decided is because of this wait for completion checkbox. So wait for completion. So whenever this is checked to true, right? So the workflow will wait till this task is completed. Then only execute the next set of actions. Execute the next set of actions. So till this task one is completed, no further tasks will be or no further activities will be executed. Getting it? So that's the most important. If this is unchecked, for example, if this is unchecked, wait for completion is unchecked. So what happens? If this is unchecked and I update it, for example, so immediately after creating task one, next activities will execute. Okay. Workflow will not wait or will not check whether the task one is closed or not. It will directly execute the next set of activities. Getting it? So generally followed is whenever the task is in progress, no further tasks will be or no further activities will be executed. So always it is followed that till task closure, no other activities should be executed. Further task, I mean to say. Getting it? So that's the meaning of wait for completion. Waits the workflow to complete the task. Clear? Next. Say catalog task. Just a moment, guys. Right. So next, create task 2. So say catalog task. So you can create this way or else you can do this way as well. So you can place the cursor on this particular task, right click, right click and then copy activity. So task is created. So you can copy the activity. You need not create right from the scratch again. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Right. So next task 2. Task 2. So now, so again, say it as wait for completion. So now give the fulfillment group as other group, say for example, database. So I'm creating task 2 for the database. Say give a short description. All these details will be provided to you, okay, during the requirement gathering. Okay, you will not create just like that. You will create the workflow activities based upon the requirement. So now task 2 creation and wait for completion. I'm setting it to true, and then task 2 for the group. And if you want to add these variables or do not want to add these variables, if you want to remove them, you can remove this. No issues. So now I'm removing variables from the task 2. Only on task 1 the variables will be present. Okay, now update. So now task 2, join the output of task 1 to the input of task 2, right? Next, task 2 is also complete. Now what we will do is, after task 2 is completed, we'll check the condition, right? So we'll check one of the variables condition. So go to our item. Right, click on write. So now we'll check this variable. So we'll check this variable OS type, whether one of the values selected or not. If it is selected, then create task 3 and 4. Otherwise, directly close the RATM and request. Now, so we have to verify whether this OS type is selected with some value or not. So to check the condition, right? So condition to check whether OS type variable is selected or not. So you have to use conditional activities. So you can use if. So if is used basically to check whether condition is true or not. You can use if. So say check if OS type is selected, right? So now you can come here, you can see conditions here, you can add the condition here. Say add the condition. What is the condition? So variable OS type is selected or not. So type variables, okay, because we are working on variables, right? Checking the variables. Type variables. Select the item. What is our item? Select our item. Select our item. Right. Select which variable? OS type, right? Right. OS type is one of, right? So if the OS type is selected with one of these values, so you can select the operator as one of. Is means it will show only, you can select only one value, but you have to check whether OS type is selected with any of the values, any of the 3 choices, right? So you can select one of to select multiple options here. So you can select, can click on control, hold the control key, select multiple values. So if the OS type is one of these values, then create task 3 and task 4. Otherwise, just close the RATM, close it, request. Getting it? So now, so this is what the condition that you can add it here to check. If you want to have a script based condition, you can configure the script here. Okay. Click on submit. Anybody, where should I join this activity? After which activity I should join this if activity? Anybody?
Task 1.
Why task 1?
After the task creation, whether the
Which one?
OS
Which task? Which task?
task 1.
After task 1, task 2 is created, right? So after task 2, we should check the condition, right? So we should join the output of task 2 to if activity. Not task 1. After task 1, we are creating task 2. So after task 2 creation and completion, then we should check this OS type variable. So join the output of task 2 to if. Okay. So now this is done. So whatever the condition that you added here, it will have two values, whether condition is true or condition is false. So yes or no, these are the two outputs. So if the condition is true, it will say yes. If the condition is false, then it will say no. So based upon the value that you are selecting on the item, so value will be written here as yes or no. Now based on these values, you have to control the next set of activities, right? So if it is yes, if the output is yes, then create task 4 and task 3 and 4. If it is no, then just close the R item and close the request. Getting it? So now create task 3 and task 4. Okay. Copy activity. Say task 3 creation and say wait for completion, and then say application development. Can give any group name, okay? Not necessarily that always you should give these groups. You can give any group. Concept is important. Right. So now, so this task I'm assigning it to application development, and this is a short description. And if you want to add any variables, you can add it here. Update, right? So this is task 3. And again, I want to create task 4 as well, parallelly. Okay, parallelly. So task 3 and task 4 should create at once. So copy activity. Say task 4. Give another group here. Say analyst. Task 4. Analyst. Click on update. So these task 3 and task 4 should be created at once. So what you can do? You can either join them directly like this. So output of yes, I'm giving it to input of task 3. Output of yes, I'm giving as an input to task 4. Getting it? So task 3 and task 4 are created at once together if the OS type is selected with some valid input. Right? So go to our item. I think it's a mandatory value. So mandatorily, the value has to be selected. Right. Next. Now, observe carefully. If the OS type is not selected. For example, if I'm saying category is none, then OS type is not populated and it is not selected at all. So in that case, so value will be none here. OS type value will be none. So it will return no. So whenever it is no, then you have to close the RATM. So for closing the RATM, we had used set values here, right? Same way, you can use set values here. Do one thing, copy the activity. Close the RATM, but change the state here. Change the state to close complete, update, and then same way, copy the activity. So this is for closing the request. This is for closing the request. So we'll have to write the script here to close the request. So we'll do that. So if it is no, close the RATM and then join the output of closing RATM activity to run script to close the request. So I'll move it here to avoid confusion. Right. For the first time, there will be some confusion looking at these lines, but so you can expand these lines. Okay, you can see the lines are overlapped. So what you can do on this context menu, expand transitions. Click on this, so you can see the overlapping is removed here. Right now, so once the request is closed, what you can do, end the workflow. And one problem here, and one more thing, task 3 and task 4. So whenever task 3 and task 4 are completed, then close the RATM. Close the RATM. Getting it? So if I join this way, for example, task 3, upon completion of task 3, I can join to this closure of RATM. Upon task 4 closure, I can join the RATM closure. But what happens here is, whenever task 3 is completed, immediately closes the RATM. It doesn't, system doesn't wait till task 4 completed or not. Whenever task 3 is completed, immediately RATM will be closed. Or whenever task 4 is completed, immediately RATM will be closed. Doesn't wait for other activity to complete. Getting it? So even though you have kept wait for completion, the system will not wait, because system will wait only till completion of any of the one task, but not for both the tasks, because we did not add any activity to check, to inform the system to wait till both the tasks are completed. Our use case is till task 3 and task 4 both are completed, then only close the RATM. Otherwise, wait the workflow till both are completed. So in order to wait the workflow till task 3 and task 4 are completed, we have to use other activity called join. So join is used to join multiple inputs and give out single output. So here output of task 3 and task 4 will be given to join, and single output will be given to output of join will be given as an input to the RATM closure. So use this join here. join the task 3 and task 4 outputs. Okay, submit. So now join task 3 output to this join the task 4 output to this join. Remove the older transition lines. So we join to the RATM, right? So delete them. Delete the transition lines going to this RATM closure. Remove them. So what I'll do is I'll try to reduce the screen size. So you can check this. I think this should give clear picture. So once the workflow begins its processing, so L1 approval will be triggered to the manager. Upon approval of L1, L2 approval will be triggered to the groups. Once L2 approval is triggered, then we are marking the RATM as approved. After RATM is marked as approved, we are creating task 1. After completion of task 1, we are creating task 2. Upon completion of task 2, we are checking whether OS type is selected with some valid value or not. If the returned value is yes, right? The returned value is yes, then it is following this path. So yes path and task 4 and then task 3, these paths. So through these paths, task 3 and task 4 are created. Right? So task 3 and task 4 are created if OS type is selected with some values. Now, if it is no, if it is not selected with any value, directly close the RATM and then close the request. And once the request is closed, join the output to the end of the workflow. So this is the approval path. Now, rejection path. So if the L1 approval is rejected, then mark the RATM as rejected and then close the RATM and then close the request and then end the workflow. Getting it? So any of the approval, either it is L1 approval or L2 approval. If any of the approval is rejected, this will be the rejection path. Now, once OS type is selected to yes, we are creating task 3 and task 4. And when both the tasks are completed, then only close the RATM. Then only close the RATM. Otherwise, wait till the other task is completed. Then only close the RATM. So So we are using join here to join the outputs of task 3 and 4 as an input to the join. Now, so join whatever the completed output is there, right? So join that completed output to the input of the closure of RATM. Getting it? Once the RATM is closed, then close the request. Here, approvals, we missed one point here. Up till now, is it clear, everybody?
Dilip, we don't know, right, whether you selected A1 engineering team, right?
Mm-hmm.
The user, we don't know the user which team is selecting.
We will not give the user to select the assignment group.
Okay. But backend, we have to create automatic which team to the
That
task will go, the ticket will be assigned for the team, right?
Right. So if you want to assign the task to the team dynamically, you have to write some script. Okay. In the
Okay.
catalog task, you have to write some script and assign the group dynamically. But what we are doing here, we are assigning the task to some team, static team. Okay. We are setting it manually, but some of the use cases where you will have to set it dynamically. Some use cases will be, they'll directly give you create a task one to the group. They'll give you the group name directly. You have to set it directly. If the group has to be picked up dynamically based upon some conditions, then you have to go for writing script. Okay, that will also be the use case. Always it will not be static. Always it will not be dynamic. Some of the use cases you will be asked to set the group directly onto the task at the workflow level. Now ask you a question. User will not be selecting the group, okay, in any chance. We'll have to automatically assign the task to some group through some conditions.
Hello.
Yes.
While working, the requirement team will give that workflow, right? I mean, which team to assign and
Right. Correct. When you're working on the requirement, right? The workflow development, right? You'll design the workflow based upon the requirement that is given to you. So in the requirements, it will be mentioned. So upon the approval, L1 approval or L2 approval, create a task, okay, to the group. They'll mention the group name.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Dilip.
Others, any question up till now? Is everybody clear with the workflow? What all we did? Am I audible? Alivelu clear?
Clear, sir.
Mahesh,
Is clear.
Manasa, Prabhakar, Sai Deepika,
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
right? So now, so in the approvals, right, there is one thing pending here. So go to any of the approval activity here. So there are some conditions here. Okay. So now approval request is posted to the users to approve, either manager's approval or some group approval. It is posted for the approval. RA team is posted for the approval. So users may be approving it or users may be rejecting it. So if the approval is posted for multiple users, say 10 members, the approval is posted. Somebody is approving, somebody is rejecting. Getting it? So how can you consider an RA team is approved, or how can you consider an RA team is rejected? So these are the conditions here. conditions for the approval. Getting it? So here, these are the conditions for approval. These are the conditions for rejection. So now, this is for the approval condition. Wait for anyone to approve. So if anybody is approving, that is fine. That is sufficient. Say for example, it is posted for 3 users approval. So if any of the user is approving, that is sufficient for the RA team to be considered as approved. Everyone to approve. Everyone in the sense, everybody should approve it. If at least one user is not approving, then system will not consider it as approved. First response from anyone. First response from anyone. Any person who is approving the request or ATM, then that is sufficient for me. That is sufficient for the system to approve. So from the multiple users, a first person, any first person is approving. Okay, then approval can be considered as approved. So if these conditions are not satisfying your requirement, okay, then you have to write a script. You have to write a script to build script based condition. Say for example, 3 users, it is posted for some approval. At least 2 members should approve it. For example, at least 2 members should approve it. Then you have to build that condition based on writing the script, because these options are not satisfying your use case. So you have to write a script to build that condition. So that is for approval. Next, this is for rejection. Okay, when anyone rejects, so what it should consider basically. So if at least one person is rejecting, reject the approval. Reject the approval. If at least if one person is approving, reject it. If this condition is selected, then the system will wait for other users to check whether they are approving or rejecting it. Wait for other responses before deciding. So if one person is rejecting, so if the request RA team is pending for approval from other users, then wait for their decision as well. Do not directly consider it as rejected. Getting it? So this is for the approval and rejection conditions. Based upon these conditions only, approval is decided on the RATMs. So right now we are selecting it as wait for approval, wait for anyone to approve. Anybody is approving, that is sufficient. When anyone rejects, reject the approval directly. Same here as well, in the group as well. So for the approval group as well, so approval is posted for the multiple groups for approval. Getting it? So in that case, how the system should understand an RA team to be approved or rejected. Say for the group, so this is for approval condition, this is for rejection condition. So wait for an approval from each group. Okay, so different teams are posted with the approval, right? So one person or an approval from each group should be there. Okay, either it could be single approval or multiple approvals. Multiple users are approving from a single group, or single user is approving from a single group. That is, at least one approval should be there from each group. So 3 groups are posted. Approval should be sent from each group to consider RA team as approved. One group is pending for approval or rejection. Then do not decide. Do not take the decision, because an approval is pending from one group. So this condition talks about that. An approval from each group. An approval from any group. Any person from any group approving it, that is sufficient. That is sufficient to consider RA team as approved. An approval from everyone in all the groups. Everybody should approve. From all the groups, all members should approve it. Then only consider RA team as approved. First response from each group. Any person, one person from each group is approving, that is sufficient. Okay. First response from any group. One person from any group is approving, that is sufficient. Okay. Do not wait for others to take the decision. If these conditions are not satisfying your requirement, then you have to build some condition through writing a script. Getting it? So this is the condition based on the script. Next, this is for the approval. This is for the rejection. So rejection, when anybody from any group is rejecting, directly reject the approval. Do not wait. Do not consider R item as rejected. If this condition is selected, then if one of the member from the group is rejecting, then wait for the other groups as well, what they are doing. Based upon that, system will take the decision. Wait for other responses from before deciding. Okay, these are important. Now, let's test our workflow. Okay, so we'll try to raise a request. Raise a request. Take somebody. We did not select OS type. Okay, so we'll see how the system will behave. So request is generated. Open the request, and RATM is generated. Open the RATM. So we'll have to modify the stage. Okay, stage is showing as request approved. So we have to modify this. So RATM is generated, and this is a request, and it is in open state. Approval says requested. That means this RATM is posted for approval, and it has other states as well. Not yet requested means approval is not yet posted. Requested means posted for approval. Approved means approval is approved. Rejected means approval is rejected. So it is requested. So scroll all the way down. So it is posted for this user's approval. So it is requested. So now this user will approve it. So I'm approving on behalf of this user only. Now RATM first level approval is completed. So you can click on this show workflow to check our workflow status. On the RATM, you have link here, show workflow. So this is our workflow currently. So you see blue color boxes, whatever you see color blue color on the activities, it means they are completed. Green is nothing but currently it is running. Blue means completed. Green means currently running. And you can see the path here, blue color path. So that means the workflow is following this path. Getting it? So L1 is approved. So it is taking approval path. Next, L2 approval. So you can see here group approvals. It has posted for 3 approvals. So group approval. So because we selected 3 groups here. Getting it? Now, so you can see approvers here. So these are all requested. They are in requested state. So these are all the group members. See here, these are all the users, and they are the group members of these 3 groups. All the group members of this group are posted for the approval request. So now what we have selected on the group approval, what was the condition? Approval from each group, I believe. What is approval condition? Not this one. L2 approval. So an approval from each group. That means every group should approve the RATM. So now, for example, I'm approving. So this user is approving. Right click, approve. So this user approved, right, from the first group. So all the other members from the same group, approval shows no longer required. That means approval is not required. One of the user approved from the group, no other members of the group are required to approve. So this state indicates no longer required. Can see, refresh this group approvals. So it is approved. That means A1 engineering group approved it. Single user from the group approved it and others are not required. Next. So approval from each group, everybody should approve. Every group should approve. So let me approve from the second group. So this user belongs to other group and I'm approving it. See, others are not required to approve from the same group. And you can see second group approval is approved. So now RA team is still showing as requested, approval as requested, because all the groups should provide their approval. Then only RA team can be considered as approval as approved. Getting it? So now once third group approves, then RA team will be considered as approved. See here, approval is approved. So all the groups should provide the approval in order to consider RA team as approved. This is because of the approval condition that we added in the L2 approval. Getting it? So now, so once the L2 approval is approved, then mark the RA team as approved action is executing. So you can see here, refresh. So once this is approved, immediately RA team is marked as approved. Task 1 is created. So refresh. You can see here, task 1 is created and it is assigned to the group called A1 engineering team. Getting it? And this is the short description of the this is the short description of the group. Now observe carefully. Open this task. So this is a task and this is assigned to this group. Priority is low, status. Now one of the member from this group will take up this task. So assign to, can assign this to one of the members. So these are all the members of the A1 engineering team. Assign it to that group, member of the group, save it. So this user will work on this task. So we'll change the status to work in progress. And once you can see the variables here. See here, variables are showing up on the task. Getting it? So we added these variables from the workflow, right? So manually we added them in the catalog task in the workflow. So that's why they are showing up here. Now this is work in progress. This user will complete the work on this particular task. He'll mark the status as, so we'll put the updates here. So this user completed the work on the catalog task. Copy. So I'll save it. So he completed his work. So he'll mark the task as close complete. So he'll mark the task as close complete, then save it. So once task 1 is completed, what should happen? Task 2 should generate, right? So task 1 is completed and task 2 should generate. It is generating. Now refresh. See here, task 2 for the database. Upon completion of task 1, then only task 2 is generated. Same thing. Now this task will be assigned to one of the member from the database group. So this one of the member can pick this up and he'll change the status to work in progress once he starts working. And then he'll provide the update. You're not seeing any variables here because we did not add them. He'll post his updates here, the work notes, and then he'll complete it. Getting it? Completed it. Refresh the workflow. We did not select OS type, right? But still I see task 3 and task 4 are generated. Some problem. Some problem. So I see task 3 and task 4 are generated, even though I did not select OS type here. I don't see OS type here. Just a moment. Go to conditions. Right. Some problem. So it is considering output as yes, even though we did not select OS type. So we need to investigate on this. Up till now, is it clear? Everybody able to understand the flow?
Dilip, creating while requesting, you have selected groups, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Usually, the user when they are raising a request,
Hmm.
they are able to choose or select our groups or that could be a backend.
No. What we are actually following is user will not be selecting the groups here directly. I just gave an example here. How can you create a workflow through some automation? This will not be the scenario always in the real time. How can you use these variables to build a workflow? That's what I'm trying to teach you. Every time this will not be the case. Okay. You in the catalog items, you may not have this variable, select the groups, but this type of variable will be used. List collector variable will be used, and user will be selecting multiple items from this list collector this way. And based upon the values selected here, you may control the workflow. So that's what I'm trying to teach here. Based upon the values selected here, we are trying to control the workflow. That is a catalog task creation, not catalog task creation. Approval, L2 approval. I'm trying to read these values. I'm trying to trigger the approval to those groups. But scenario could be different when you get into the project. Okay, but you should know how to use this list collector in the catalog items, and then you should understand the behavior of it. That's what I'm trying to teach you. Platform level behavior I'm trying to teach you here, along with the how that could be used. So here I've taken a scenario. Whatever the groups that I'm selecting here, I want to trigger approval to those groups. That's my scenario. But customer scenario could be different. Every time this will not be the scenario. Okay. Scenarios can change, but platform behavior will not change. So I'm trying to teach you the platform behavior, how the variable will behave, and how can we build some use case and try to understand that behavior through the use case. Getting it? So how this list collector could be used and how does it behave and how am I trying to build a use case through this behavior. That's what I'm trying to teach here. Don't blindly go with the uh, use case that I'm talking here. You can learn this use case, but still there will be many use cases that will be used in the project. Getting it? This is not the only use case that will be working in the projects. Clear? Especially for the catalog items. For every catalog item, this will not be the blind scenario. But this is how you will use it. Clear? Is it Prabhakar? Who asked the question?
Yes, Dilip.
Yeah, so this will not be the straight scenario always. Scenarios can change, but you should be able to apply your skill in order to build workflow for such use cases. So before that, you should understand what is this list collector and how can I read the values and how can I use those values while building a workflow. That's the whole point here.
Okay, Dilip.
Others, any questions? Able to follow the workflow? So tomorrow we'll investigate like what's the problem with this OS type. Others clear? All right. Thank you. We'll wind up the session for today. We'll connect tomorrow.
Yes, sir.